What's up guys, this is Nick at Stridewise.com where we look at casual, durable men's stuff. And one of the cool things about this job is I sometimes get to visit brands when they're coming out with cool new models. I did it at Red Wing Heritage when they released the Iron Ranger Traction Tread. I did it for Filson's 125th anniversary collection. And since I live in Manhattan, it was easy to visit Thursday Boot Company and grill them about their new line of super duper premium boots they're calling the Black Label Collection. And I picked up the first product in the line that they are calling the Challenger. So I could give you my thoughts and compare it to what I'm pretty sure this boot is meant to be challenging, the Urban Logger from Nick's Handmade Boots. What is the Challenger? Whether you're invoking Nick's or not, it is undeniable that the Challenger boot is positioned as a Pacific Northwest boot. Boots, of course, have many different categories. You'd put both Thursday and Nick's in the heritage boot category. And then there are subcategories like riding boots, midwestern, heritage work boots, service boots, it goes on and on. But the Pacific Northwest category refers to brands like Nick's, also White's, Westco, JK, Frank's, who make boots that are heritage, which basically means they're made with construction that's relatively traditional and extremely tough. And they're made with largely natural materials, namely a shit ton of leather. And Pacific Northwest boots in particular are built for or inspired by the outdoorsmen of North America's Pacific Northwest and its endless green forest. So PNW brands typically have a collection for firefighters. Often they have lines for linemen and hunters. And of course, logger boots for the lumberjacks. Although I should say again that while you can call both of these boots logger boots by these criteria, these are more fusions of logger boots and city boots. Like logger boots are often 10 inches tall, right? So they're meant to be right between the city boot and the real logger boot. Now, if you're a fan of Thursday boots, this style is probably very alien to you. Thursday has always focused more on what people tend to call city boots because even people in the city need the benefits of stable footwear and durable and water-resistant leather footwear. Especially here in New York, where we walk so much there's still a cobbler on every block. Thursday also stands out in the heritage boot crowd by using synthetic insoles to help with shock absorption and break-in, and by somehow keeping their resolvable boots under $200. Those are the two big things that help them succeed. Now, if you're a Pacific Northwest guy, and you really like these sorts of boots, then those elements are alien to you, like inexpensive boots and boots with synthetic components. That's very unusual for you. But Thursday wants your business. This is the Challenger. And I could do this video on my own, but I did talk to Thursday's co-founder when I picked these up to learn more about them. So let's get multimedia. Hey, pre-recorded Nolan Walsh, what's the deal with this line of boots?
Why we decided to create the Black Label Collection and some of these new styles we're coming out with. Talking to you, talking to a few other reviewers, people like that who just like love the concept of Thursday and want something beefier. I would say what defines the Black Label Collection is we're using just super high-end leathers from the most renowned tanneries in the world. All of the components are our highest end version of every component. You know, they're made in super small batches and I'm talking like 5-unit batches by our most senior artisans. And our plans to just kind of do some of that special upper echelon stuff for the true boot geeks such as ourselves.
Yeah.
Some of those product specs of all leather internal components, as well as things like a fully gusseted tongue, right. And stitch down construction, double stitch here.
This is also Vibram as well. Like you really did go for the biggest names. It's not like imitations of
Vibram. That's me saying it. That's called a transition. We transitioned just then. A big element of these boots is all leather internal components. While Thursday usually emphasizes better shock absorption with synthetics and better break-in, a lot of boot guys prefer all leather underfoot. Now, the regular Thursdays, like the Captains, still have a cork filling and leather midsoles on their Goodyear welt. So they do still mold to your foot's shape, like certainly a lot more than sneakers that you're used to, but not in quite the same way as all leather construction does. Right, Thursday guy?
The criticisms that I hear of Thursday, boot guys get into boots because they like the fact that boots get more comfortable as you wear them. You sink into the footbed, the leather molds around the shape of your foot, creates like a custom feeling over time. And the pour-on foam in Thursday, while it's better at shock absorption, it doesn't do the same. It doesn't have the same effect of like
right. It's too comfortable
leather
from the
molding.
Yeah. Another thing about a boot's internal components is that usually there's something in there to stiffen or reinforce the toe and the heel. Most brands use Celastic, which is a plastic impregnated fabric. But many boot nerds often prefer leather, again, because it molds more to your foot shape, maybe it breathes better, or just because it's more natural, there's a bunch of reasons. You've got that on the Challenger too. There's no Celastic anywhere around here. They even said use leather for the heel counter, and I think a lot of their standard line of boots have like heat activated materials to like, again, better speed up breaking in. This one's all natural. It's just what the traditionalists want, right? They even went with a leather shank. So for newcomers, shanks are usually steel. It's a hard strip inserted under the midfoot here to provide more stability to the boot. High-end brands like Nicks and Whites often use, instead of steel shanks, which is what the cheaper Thursdays have, they use really stiff, thick, vegetable tanned leather shanks instead, because it does the same job while having a little bit more give to it. And curiously, there's also less leather in these boots.
We're doing skeleton lining on most of these.
Like, you mean partially lined? Is what you mean?
Meaning partially lined, right? So like if you look at this here, we're using, because of that thicker leather, not having that lining and avoiding backers and things like that is just kind of the perfect look and feel for it.
Thursday's boots, they're like 1.6 to 1.8 millimeters. This is about 2 to 2.2 millimeters. And then there's the big one, which is the leathers that they use for the upper. Most of Thursday's leather comes from the Lafargue tannery in Leon, Mexico, which is the same city where the boots are made. They do leather for huge brands, Ariat, Tecovas, Schutt NYC, Saddleback, Huckberry. Lafargue actually invited me there for a workshop once. They're super sustainable. With that said, brands like Nicks use leather from super premium tanneries that would not let you make a boot for under $200, like most of Thursday's boots. Indisputably, the list of best tanneries on earth includes Chicago's Horween Leather Company for boot leather, England's CF Stead for suede. Wouldn't you know it, I've visited both of those places. There's Italy's Mariam for horse, Japan's Shinki Hikaku for cordovan. All these facilities make many kinds of leather, like Horween definitely rivals Shinki for cordovan, but I'm trying to give you cliff notes here, right? This discussion of the leather uppers, I think, is where the boot community really set up and took notice, because the Challenger came out in, actually I think I can get Nolan to say this for me, and then it'll look more like a more professional production. The Challenger came out in...
From right to left here. So this one's from Shinki in Japan, also made from horse rump from Mariam.
Mariam in Italy.
Yep.
This is
Stead.
I was gonna guess it. This is Stead, right? Yeah. This got like veins all through it. It's really like.
And the coloring's just awesome.
Yeah.
Of the highs and lows and the way it patinas is just really unique.
Also Mariam cordovan from Shinki, CF Stead suede. That's what this one is. This is CF Stead suede. It is a lot thicker and tougher than what most people think of when they hear suede. There are a zillion kinds of suede, which I've learned at CF Stead. And this is a famously tough one called Rambler. Very thick, very tough. Truman sells boots in a million different kinds of Rambler. This is the Stone Rambler. Very cool looking leather. It's full of veins and stuff. Like, it really looks like you've like carved it out of the side of an animal's body. Suede just means that you've like kind of taken, that the leather's been split. It doesn't mean that it is thin. You can make really thick leather that's technically suede. As for the construction, both boots here use double row stitch down construction. Without getting too technical, you see how many times I have to stop myself from getting into the weeds here. Usually, good resolable boots are made with Goodyear welts. You can also make a boot resolable with stitch down construction. There are 2 rows here that really makes it like hard to resole and also hard to make in the first place, right? And you gotta make sure that the rows don't intersect or whatever. But stitch down is the kind of build you would expect on an authentic Pacific Northwest boot. Like, if it was everything else was the same and they used a Goodyear welt, people would find that a little funny. There are arguments that it's more water resistant and durable than a Goodyear welt. Normally I tell people that they're splitting hairs when they talk about that, when they differentiate those two. For this kind of boot, where theoretically you're out there chopping down trees for weeks on end, I can see why you'd insist on it. All right, there's more, but that's probably enough on the similarities. As far as the differences go, Thursday has done a few interesting things here to help with break-in. They gave themselves this rule of keeping the internal components all leather. So 2 things they did that were really interesting here while sticking to that rule, which is that they cut grooves into this insole here to make it more flexible. I've seen this before on like some soles, like rubber soles. Cut lines in there, makes it more flexible. And they also lined the insole and heel with Vachetta leather. So that's an unusually soft vegetable tanned leather. That's kind of best known for being used on luxury bags, but they used it here. And I can tell you, I was really expecting a monstrous break-in with a Challenger, but I was able to wear it just fine on day one, because Nicks are in fact, fairly famous for having quite tough break-in. We're still talking about differences here. The weight is different. The Challenger is 1,130 grams. Nyx was 1,325 grams. They're both 11D. I honestly prefer the speed hooks on the Challenger because they catch the laces better than these ones. Thursday went with the toe cap as well. But important to note, really important to note, is that you can customize your urban luggers to have a toe cap and to have different eyelets and different speed hooks or no speed hooks. Nyx is really impressive with the control they give you over your boots. You can get an unstructured toe or a elastic toe, choose how your shaft is finished, like rolled edges, raw, padded collar. You can even make it 8 inches tall or turn it into a mock toe if you want. All of these cost extra, of course, and it's not uncommon for this boot to wind up at about $700. In my opinion, the arch is a pretty important difference here. These boots both have very big heels, right? They're about the same height. These are, again, the same size, 11D. If you look very closely though, the arch is just a little bit higher on Nyx. I clocked it at about a 1/4 inch higher than Thursday's. Like I said, a dramatic arch is sort of part of the identity of the logger boot. But when walking around in both of these boots and at the same time and then in both pairs separately, I believe the higher arch on Nyx is responsible for what I think is a critical difference between the two, which is that the Urban Logger's design pitches me forward a little more when I'm walking. I feel significantly more like I'm in high heels in this boot. With the Thursdays, it was almost easy to forget that I was in high heel boots. The Challenger has pretty consistently 5 stitches per inch, and the Urban Logger regularly drops to 4 stitches per inch. And it doesn't make much difference to me. That's just for me personally. When boots are this inexpensive as the Challenger is, I think it's a bit silly to complain about stitches per inch. But even if you wanted to complain about stitches per inch, it is better on the Challenger. And the Black Label collection is targeting the kinds of guys who do look at this stuff. But it's not like it's like the highest SPI I've ever seen on a machine sewn stitch down boot. Like this is what a Viberg looks like. This is a brand that like boot guys really go crazy for. And that's also machine sewn stitch down construction, but with ultra high SPI. For most guys though, the price is the most important difference. So is the part where you actually get the boot. And I'll explain what I mean in a second by that. But first, the price. The Urban Logger starts at $609 right now. Like I said before, once you start customizing, very easy for it to get to about $700. They are mostly rugged American boot leathers, if not all of them. So you might find the way Nyx does their leather better or worse. It's just based on preference. I mean, all this stuff is. This one isn't. The biggest downside with Nyx is that they make your boots to order. And while this does, believe it or not, keep the price down, and also it helps with sustainability and managing waste, that kind of stuff, you will wait 18 to 35 weeks on average for a pair of Nyx boots. That wait time, that's objectively, that sucks. Thursday sells the Challenger for $350. Cordovan one is $550. One of the horse butts is $370, but you're looking at $350. It's actually $349, and actually at $349 that makes them cheaper than a Red Wing Iron Ranger. In addition to that, if you like everything that you've heard, but you don't really care about the famous leathers part of it, Thursday also sells the exact same boot here with leather from Lafarque in Mexico for $289. I just told you what Nyx cost, and that's a pretty okay price for Nyx for American-made double row stitch down boot with this much leather and everything. But everything else here pretty much is the same. Plus you get the fancier leathers. Plus, if you wanted to argue about that higher stitches per inch stuff, you could. They're like half the price. Maybe even more importantly than that, you don't have to wait 6 months for your goddamn boots. They usually arrive in the same week, and sizing exchanges are free. That's gonna cinch it for a lot of people. Anyway, man, let me know what you think in the comments below. There's always more to say here, but no one's gonna click on a boot video that's 20 minutes long. I did have an article, I wrote an article in the description below if you wanna read even more of my thoughts on this stuff. Yeah, let me know your thoughts and subscribe as well for more stuff on casual and stuff that lasts a long time. I'll catch you for the next one.